Good afternoon, everyone. We will just, as usual, give it a 2 minutes for everyone to join us. A note of advice for you today, make sure you have a notepad and a pen next to you, which we're certain you will need it, and start preparing those questions even before you listen to the content. It's an interesting session with our best friend Anders. Lovely to see some repeat names, and it's amazing to see our colleagues from the US as well joining us. For some of you, it may be quite an early start, so thank you for making the time to attend. Okay, one more minute. Good afternoon, Evita. Okay, one more minute. Excellent. And let us kickstart. Good afternoon, everybody, and absolutely lovely to see you on during our weekly webinars. Before we really start, I really wanted us to test our positivity barometer. Are you feeling the positivity rising in MEA? Are you actually living it at your property? So we wanted to run a quick, fun poll with all of you, and I hope more will join us so we can really test the positivity barometer growing, moving north in MEA. So can you please cast your votes? 1 second, put that number, be candid. If you're feeling zero, you can still put zero, but I'm sure not. Okay, excellent. Gerastine, that's enough. Whoever voted votes. Yeah, exactly what we're expecting. Every single day, we're waking up to one positive news after another, whether it is the travel advisories being raised, whether it is an international airlines now rescheduling their flights back to the region. And I always take, UAE as a core pillar because it happens in UAE, it triples everywhere in the region. So it can only go forward and upward from now on, and hopefully the coming 90 days are a very important 90 days in the life of every commercial. So really, we couldn't have brought in a better topic today than the discussion that Anders is going to take us with. So if you've ever sat in a meeting where and visualize the scenario where sales have a forecast, marketing have another, revenue management have a third, everyone knows or thinks they are right, but something is not right because you can't have three forecasts by three different disciplines. So this is my if for those that attend with us a lot our annual commercial strategy conference, you know that Anders Johansson is really part of the family. Anders join us almost every year to deliver a master class during the annual conference. And this session today has quite a interesting session. So I'm going to read it. So the 7 futures problem, why your sales, marketing, and revenue teams are all wrong, and what are you going to do about it during the coming 90 days? That is definitely a bold title, and I personally look forward to hearing what Anders has to say. What he's going to talk about is why do commercial team keep pulling in different directions even when everyone is working hard and meaning well. He has built a 5 level diagnostic. See why I told you bring that notepad. So he has built a 5 level diagnostic to show us exactly where our hotel stands today and where forecasting philosophy, what's the right forecasting philosophy that can pull sales, marketing, and revenue together into a one number forecast. Before I leave the floor to Anders, some reminders of our housekeeping notes. You are in a webinar session, but you have 2 ways of asking questions. Ask questions at any time. You may raise your hand and Justine will activate your audio visual so you can personally ask Anders your question. Alternatively, you can write me the question in the Q&A and I will ask Anders the question on your behalf. So I welcome you back virtually this time until we meet in person, and let's talk about how the 90 days ahead of us will look like. And you promised that that plan will lead to results in 90 days. So my notepad is next to me, and I am counting the 90 days as of 1st of July. So over to you, Anders, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. And just a quick note about my background. I have been the CEO of hotel companies, and so I'm well familiar with all the challenges and sometimes struggles that especially commercial departments have in hotels, but also in operations. And I've been working with revenue management since the late 1980s, so I hope that I can contribute a little bit around that as well. So when we talk about forecasting, it's so this is a little bit about philosophy. Everything starts with the forecast. So every commercial decision is a bet on future demand, and the forecast is the bet. So if you are wrong with the forecast, pricing will be wrong, the labor scheduling will be wrong, marketing will be wrong, groups that you say yes to will be the wrong ones. And so this is why forecasting is so exceptionally important. So what is it like in a hotel in a day-to-day basis? And Mona said it clearly. It's very often that you have different forecasts. So that is the important part. So here we have actually 7 different forecasts. So if we start with number 1, the revenue management are very good nowadays to forecast, and they are focusing on rooms, room revenue, ADR, all these measurements around the room part of the hotel. And I think revenue managers are very sophisticated in their forecasting. They have a good grip on what's going on in the hotel. Then they talk to sales, and most of the time they discover that sales have sort of another idea about what is coming, who should we bring into the hotel, and it's very often very volume driven. I want to get this order in or this group into the hotel at a rate that might not be super satisfying for the revenue management. And then marketing, they sort of tend to have a marketing plan for the year, and they have planned their campaigns and so on, and so they operate under another type of forecast. Then in the Middle East, you have a lot of larger hotels, you have a lot of food and beverage and meeting and events and so on, and that is it's beginning to be a part of the revenue manager's job as well to forecast food and beverage and meeting and events. But many hotels, they are not there yet. And then we go to the operations and we look at housekeeping, for example. Pretty normal is that you need to understand is that stayover room or a departure room, and you have to make sort of your own forecast if you're housekeeping. Purchasing, what supplies should you buy, and what food and beverages do you need to purchase? That's another type of forecast as well. And then you have finance, and they look at the cash flow. They tend to look at the P&L a little bit more, and they rarely share their forecast. That's more like financial or accounting measurement. And then on top of these 7, I've also talked to a lot of brands and smaller hotel groups. Then they say that, well, we have actually 2 more forecasts. We have one forecast that we sent to the HQ, and the one forecast that they want to see, and then we have a 9th forecast that we send to the owner, and that is sort of something that we want to show the owner, maybe not necessarily the truth sometimes. So this is a huge problem with all these forecasts. So let's do a poll. Where are you today in terms of forecasting? So Geraldine, can you? Yeah, perfect. Here we see the poll. So be honest now, because we cannot see who answered what. So let's think through this. So level 0, you don't really forecast. So you are more in a reactive mode. Level 1, you use the annual budget as the forecast. Level 2, revenue management forecast rooms, but other departments no forecast basically, or they do their own. Level 3, each department forecasts in its own silo, so it's not coordinated. And then level 5, we skip level 4. One forecast every department acts on in real time. So that's the highest level. So have you decided where are you? And be honest. Geraldine, you see how many answers we have, and when we have enough, you can show us the results. Maybe it's a difficult question. Okay, so pretty good. One forecast. 7 has one forecast. That's excellent. I'd like to talk to all the 7 of you and find out exactly what are you doing. Otherwise, it looks pretty normal that you're in the middle. You're at level 2, 3. And that's my experience from talking to a lot of different hotel companies, that's where a lot of them are at the moment. So let's move on and see what does this mean. So if you're on a level 0 and 1, it's like you are sort of blind. So it's very reactive. It's very hard to make any good decisions, and it's also very hard to get to the profitability that you probably need to show your owner and produce a healthy return on investment. Level 2, 3. So now you have a lot of data. There is a lot of discussions, as Mona pointed out earlier. And you tend to talk a lot about whose forecast is the right one. And then on the level 4, 5, then you have one forecast and you act on the same future. So you have one view of the future, which is very interesting, because then you can take a full grip over total revenue and probably also focus more on the guest satisfaction and make sure that your guest satisfaction level is high and that you also make a very healthy profit. So what is the cost then? If you're not on level 5, then there is a cost attached to that. Probably sort of invisible, because you don't really know what could happen if you move up to a higher level. So there are basically 3 leaks in that, and the first one is wasted marketing. So if marketing has their own forecast and their own plan, then that means that you are not directed the marketing resources to where you need them the most. And if you would direct them to the periods where you need them the most, you would probably get more reservations when you actually need them. So in this case, it's also wasting a lot of marketing resources on triggering guests to actually book in the wrong channels. More, not deliberately, but that's the effect of that. And then if you work with groups, then if you don't have a correct forecast, then you tend to accept the groups that you accept any group, basically. Maybe, hopefully, with some guardrails from the revenue management side, but you tend to accept groups that are not as profitable as they could be. And then rate decisions. So it's the hotel industry has always been very focused on occupancy and filling up the hotel. So if you tend to look too much on the ARI or RGI and try to beat the competition, maybe you focus too much on the room revenue and not on all the ancillary revenues as well. So this could mean that you increase the rates a little bit too high, and then you lose some accounts to your competition. So again, it's very difficult not to make the right decisions if you don't have a solid forecast. So what's the cost attached to this? So here is just an example. So sold out weekends with active paid campaigns running. That's totally unnecessary, because it's a waste of marketing money. And displacement also, where you get more reservations through the OTAs without any good reason. So here, just by wasting the marketing resources or using them in the wrong way, you will lose between 40 and 80,000 euros. And that is quite a significant amount. Yes, Natalie, question.
Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Natalie.
Mhm.
You have a question, Natalie?
No,
Okay, it
mistake.
was by
Okay,
mistake.
okay.
By
Yeah,
mistake she raised her hands. No issues,
okay.
dear. Thank you.
No problem. So that was one waste. The other one is group. So if you block groups and you accept a lower rate, maybe far in advance, because far in advance, maybe you don't have much on the books. So you say, well, we are pretty happy. We get the room block of 200 room nights, and 140 euros sounds like a good rate if we have nothing on the books. But the forecast would actually show you that there is demand for 240 euros per night. So in this case, it's like 20,000 that you lose by accepting the wrong type of group. There is significant money to be made by having a much better forecast and to put some effort into forecasting. The 5 levels of forecasting maturity. So let's see where you are right now. We are not polling this, so I'm just going to explain the levels. So level 0, then it's gut feeling only. So no forecast, basically. You make decisions by feeling. I have a good feel that these days will pick up pretty nice, so we don't need to do anything. Or I have a feeling that this is a weaker period, we need to run a campaign. Next one is level 1, so that's where you make your annual budget, and then you use that as your sort of watermark, and understand that is where you try to calibrate around that as well. It's sort of not good because and maybe especially in your region, that things happen all the time, and things change. So a budget is sort of what we thought back in October, November for next year, and then it's not accurate for many months. The level 2 is more like, yes, you are pretty good at forecasting rooms, but that's it. No ancillary revenue, no other revenue sources. Level 3, you have a lot of data, but it's sort of it sits in different silos, and it's very hard to get a full grip over the forecast. So nobody really trusts the data. Everyone has their own data. And then level 4, each department forecasts its own silo, and that's better. It's level 4, so it's good. Revenue forecast rooms, food and beverage forecast food and beverage, meeting and events forecast meeting and events, and so on. So that is good, and it's normally a good coordination with finance as well, and maybe finance is a driver of this, and they demand, oh, you have to forecast. And then the level 5 is more strategic, so it's one forecast for the whole team, and it's real time, and everyone shares the same forecast and the same view of the future. Let's dig a little bit deeper into this. So level 0, no forecast, decisions by gut feel, or yesterday's reports, basically. So and then you have a GM that is expert on feelings, so they override what you think, and have a strong opinion of what is the next action. And so occupancy is like fluctuating, but you are super happy when it's on top. So, and then the budget, it's fragmented. It's the annual budget recycled as a forecast, and probably not for long. Maybe the first months of the year, and after that, it's not accurate any longer. So this is probably initiated by the accounting or the CFO finance. So and strategy and budget, 2 separate realities. It's budget is sort of, this is the minimum we need to produce to our owner, and finance is really on top of that. And then we have the island version where the revenue manager is in control and work very hard on forecasting rooms. However, food and beverage, spa, and other parts are sort of not in the game, at least not connected to revenue management and the room forecast. And each department makes its own demand assumptions. So that is creating a lot of annoyance probably, because I think all revenue managers, they are happy to distribute their forecast. But if it's not 100% trust about the forecast, and then things happen and forecasts are never 100% right, so then there is a little bit of doubt, and then the other departments will start to make their own forecasts. So I used to be the CEO of a hotel company, and I always ask the questions to marketing, sales, and revenue. So what do you think? And they all had different opinions about the future and what we should do. And there was, I felt like I'm the mediator between those three departments. So that is also why I'm a little bit interested in getting to one forecast, because I think that would be the solution for a lot of hotel companies. And then if we move up to the next level, then you have a lot of data. You still discuss in all the meetings which number is the correct number, and it's a tendency to revert to gut feel. I don't trust the numbers, so I use my gut feel instead. So, and then level 4, some of you were on level 4. So then each department forecasts its own silo and does that well. In the hotel industry, we are really, really good at working in our silos, and we have perfected the work in silos. I think a lot of hotel tech companies have really helped to make silos super efficient. The problem is that, okay, we are still in silos, and the collaboration between the silos is what we are lacking. But still, this is a step in the right direction, and you learn a lot, and you understand the business much more than if you're on lower levels. And then on level 5, now we are on a strategic level. So now it's one forecast. Everyone relates to the same forecast, and it's also in real time. It's not like it's updated once in a while. It's there, and it's you can access that forecast anytime you want and look at that, see how it changes, and then change pricing, staffing, purchasing, marketing, and sales, and so on that forecast. So a weekly commercial meeting, for example, now it's more a discussion about what should we actually do in order to sort of beat the forecast, or when we see far out, what can we see? Are there any soft periods? Do we need more business? How should we allocate our marketing resources, for example? So this is where you also go from top line only. So level 5 is also to become more profit oriented. So you can understand a little bit better what is the customer acquisition cost, what is the cost of sold goods, or the cost of producing the hotel room, and food and beverage and meeting products, and so on. And then you start to accept guests that actually drive your profitability rather than only top line. Okay, so in the Middle East, we'll see if I get this right. So you have a lot of demand swings. You have peaks that are more than peaks. basically, compared to other parts of the world. So exceptional, extreme seasonal compression. So it is maybe a little bit more difficult to forecast, but it's also more important to forecast because this is where you make or break the profitability. And then you are heavily group and MICE. So the mix, it's not for all hotels, but you have a lot of larger hotels with a lot of ancillary revenue streams, food and beverage, maybe several restaurants. You have a lot of meeting facilities in many of the larger properties. So here is also very important to have a grip of the total revenue. And unfortunately for all hoteliers in the market, there are new competition coming in to the market. So it's also very competitive. You have to make sure that you really understand what is happening and when are new hotels going to open, when are new hotel or older hotels being renovated and so on, and keep good track on the supply side as well. And then food and beverage. What I've seen with these full service hotels, it's like in terms of forecasting, if they are at a level where they only forecast rooms, then they forecast maybe 50 to 65% of total revenue. So they miss like 35 to 50% of the revenue. And it makes a huge difference if you forecast the total compared to only rooms, for example. So we have one forecast. That's what I've been saying now for the past 20 minutes. But the forecast has actually 3 jobs. So the first job is operational. So now we look at the short-term perspective, so up to 30 days out. And here it's very important to be as accurate as you can with the forecast. So here you should measure the forecasting accuracy. And yes, don't deviate more than 2-3%. I've heard stories from actually from here in the Nordics that if a revenue manager has a deviation more than 5%, then they will lose their job. So maybe it's not that tough in the Middle East, but I think in the short-term perspective, I think it's important to focus on the accuracy, because if you don't, then the labor scheduling will be wrong, the purchasing will be wrong, the planning will basically be wrong, housekeeping will be wrong as well. So that will cost a lot of money in terms of mistakes and unnecessary costs. So and that's where you measure accuracy. The next part of the forecast is the tactical period, so 30 to 120 days. So don't measure forecasting accuracy. That is stupid. And why is that? Because you originally forecast, and then you discover, oh, we see a soft period. And then we don't do anything, and then you had 100% accuracy of the forecast. That's terrible. So here you should forecast, you look at the forecast, and then you take action, and then you measure what was the revenue lift versus the forecast. So here it's another measurement. And in the industry, we have most of the time just been talking about forecasting accuracy, which is important in the shorter perspective, but not in the midterm perspective. And then the third part is the strategic forecasting. So now we are 120 days out and longer. And here is where you can actually shape demand. You can plan group deals. You can set your corporate rates, plan your campaigns, pricing strategy, and so on. So normally, maybe in October, November, you put together the budget for next year, and that is the starting point. So maybe the baseline is the budget, and then the metric, success metric, is to measure the revenue captured versus doing nothing with the baseline. Just trying to keep reaching the budget. So you should also, the strategic, it's 120 plus days out. It all depends, but I always say at least 12 months out. But it depends on the type of hotel you operate. If you have a lot of meeting space, if you are sort of a convention hotel, then it's probably 3 years out or longer, because you tend to get bookings for large conventions years in advance. Even if that has changed the last couple of days, where reservations tend to come in later and later, even for larger groups. So it's the same number, but one scoreboard per horizon. So you measure, the measurements are different. So and then we'll look at what is the insights you can do when you have this forecast. So the long-term forecast. So now it exists to change the future. So if a campaign fills the soft week and the forecast was wrong, then the strategy was a success, actually. So in this case, it's not a problem that the forecast was wrong. Seen in hindsight, when you reevaluate what was the forecast and what action did we take. So that is it's a good way of doing it. But then in the short-term perspective, now you have to be super accurate, and the more accurate, the better, because that will minimize the cost side of the business. So every role works in a little bit different ways. So it starts with the revenue manager that builds the forecast, and then in the operational or short-term perspective, then you probably have food and beverage, meeting and events, and operations in general. They are very focused on today or the short-term future. And then the tactical one, probably sales, and probably those type of pricing discount campaigns that could be initiated by revenue management, for example. And then in the long-term perspective or strategic, probably not only marketing, but also sales. That it all depends again. So if you have a lot of larger meeting spaces, yes, sales is definitely involved in the strategic forecasting as well. And then all over all these perspectives is something that the GM or owner of finance will be in as well. Yes, Mona. Mona, I see your hand raised.
I forgot to unmute myself.
Okay.
I received a question to my chat,
Yeah.
and it says, how long should a month-end forecast reconciliation take?
Yeah. Yeah, so the operational one, the first part, that should take 10-15 minutes. And then tactical, maybe a little bit longer. And the strategic, so operational, that's something, that's a daily task, basically. So you have to work on that every single day. You look at the next 30 days and make some updates. And then the tactical, maybe you do that once a week. You look at the next 90 days, so between 30 and 120 days. And then the strategic, my recommendation, if you have a rolling forecast of 12 months, I think that's a monthly task. So you update the month that next year that just ended, because then you remember everything that went on during that month, and then you can apply some of those learnings for the same month the next year. Yeah. I hope that answer the question a little bit. Okay, live poll. So
I didn't get a reply, so I guess you answered.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
So
And
let's
for the live poll, we have 65 people with us today. So can we have a better results on the poll? Just 1 second.
yeah. So which is your biggest commercial leak? So we waste marketing spend on dates that didn't need it, or B, wrong groups booked on peak nights at rates that hurt transient or were lower than transient. C, rate decisions that burn demand long-term accounts. So we took the wrong rate decisions. Or D, can't tell, and that's the problem. So we don't know. So Geraldine, when you see that a lot of people have answered, then we can look at the results. Groups, wrong groups, rate decisions, maybe too early, rate decisions, marketing spend, few, can't tell. So I made this poll pretty easy. Then we could add a lot of other ideas to this, like we don't know the customer acquisition cost, and that is increasing our costs for customer acquisition, and displacement. Maybe that's the wrong groups, for example, and so on. But that's interesting results. Okay, let's continue. So what is the success formula? Now we can talk about what to do. So maybe it's a bit provocative. So stop measuring rooms, start measuring profit instead. So we are all in the industry talking about occupancy. It is good to be able, as a GM or a CEO of a hotel company, it's good to be able to say we have high occupancy, and everyone thinks, oh, that's a popular hotel. They have have a lot of guests all the time. So, but the problem with that is that we tend to fill rooms at any cost. So we are very focused on heads in beds, and we don't really think about what is the cost of acquiring all those guests, and are they really spending a lot of money in all our outlets and so on. So it would be a better KPI to measure total revenue per day and see which days are producing more revenue than others, and so on, and start the analysis from that point of view. And then room revenue, fine, that's good, but it ignores customer acquisition cost, and which also is part of the channel mix. So net RevPAR, so that's after commission and after all customer acquisition costs. That's a much better KPI than RevPAR, for example. And if we go to RevPAR, so some hotels measure RevPAR alone and look at the RGI and all these competitive KPIs as well. But the RevPAR is not considering other revenue streams like food and beverage and meeting and events. So TRevPAR is definitely much better. So total revenue per room as well. And then the ADR versus the comp set. You probably read your star reports and also look at so where are we in terms of pricing and also RGI and the total market share. But it is risky to just look at the competitors, and that could actually mean that you lose money instead of making money. So even if you have an RGI that is higher than the competitors, maybe they are much smarter in terms of capturing ancillary revenue from their guests. So the same RGI or could be, and then it could be very, very different in terms of the profitability. So focus more on profit and less on having the 100% occupancy and a very high top line. So one screen, one truth, one commercial team. So here it's a lot of people involved in one screen. So the idea, and you can use many different systems for this, but have one forecast and one truth somewhere that all these roles can access and start to work with. So for food and beverage, just as an example, so they can access the forecast, they can see how many rooms are we forecasting to sell for different days and how many guests are there going to be in the hotel and so on. And based on that, they can make the plans for different outlets. And the same with rooms. So housekeeping, maybe that should be a little bit more granular in terms of how many stayover rooms do we have, how many departure rooms, and so on, and how many rooms do we need to clean per day in order to be able to sell the rooms or have rooms for arriving guests as well. And these things are have different importance in different parts of the world also, where it's more important if the staff cost and labor cost is higher than, and in some parts of the world, maybe labor cost is a little bit lower, and then it's a different story. However, I'm sort of, I think it's a sort of a sport also to operate a hotel from a business perspective. So no matter what the cost situation is, I would still always compete in terms of what can my GOP percentage be or my return on investment be for the owner, and trying to maximize that. So this week, so now it's action time. So what you can do this week is you can audit your dashboards. So the first one is the question is this dashboard helping us to shape demand 120 days plus out? So do you have a dashboard, or do you have an overview of the forecast? And this is a question for the weekly meeting or the monthly meeting where you look further out, and then you say this is the actions that we need to take. And then on the short-term perspective, it's more describing the future. So you say that this is the forecast. It's not going to change. This is accurate. So variance, track the variance. So when the forecast misses, make a standing agenda item. What happened? Was there a market shift? Was there a competitor move? Did one of our processes break down? and say it out loud. This is what happened, because if you don't, you have a hard time learning from these things. And then the KPIs, make that action taken KPI instead of measuring accuracy, for example. Measure what actions did we take, and what, if you can, measure the impact of those actions. And then you have to have a feedback loop. So the question is also, okay, something went wrong. It didn't get what we expected, but what can we learn from this situation? How can we improve the process now so we won't run into this situation again? 3 things to take away today. Forecast is the bet, and all commercial decisions is built on the forecast. If there is something you should remember, this is it. So no, not 7 departments is 7 forecasts. No, you should have 1 forecast, and everyone should be on top of that forecast and look at that forecast, base their decisions on that forecast. So what we said before, most hotels live on level 2, 3. So the shift up, it's not about software. It's not, it's not, the solution is not to buy a new piece of software. The solution is to make a decision that we should have 1 forecast. And it's more like the leadership in hotels should make that decision. And then you can probably start to work on that without any additional software. And then maybe if you want to move up to level 3, 4, 5, maybe you need to figure out how should you use the software that you already have, or is there any other software that is more fitted for this. 1 number, 2 score was 3 time horizons. So the forecast in 3 different time periods. And it's again very important to make sure that sales, revenue, and marketing work together, and they relate to the same forecast. And based on that, you will definitely drive profitability. So what to do now when you come back home, or when you leave this webinar? You should buy your revenue lead and sales lead a coffee together, and make sure that they start to work together and discuss this about the forecast. And then you should agree on 1 shared profitability number for next month, and you have to write it down, otherwise it won't stick. And then put it on a scoreboard. So everyone in the commercial team and all other teams should be able to see that clearly when they come into the hotel, or maybe in the staff canteen, or where they enter the staff entrance, or something like that. So that's the first way to get rid of the silos, to get everyone to work together in 1 forecast. So if you want to hear more about this, I'm available. So you have my contact information, and if you want to discuss forecasting, just reach out, and would be super happy to discuss ideas, or if you want to test some of your ideas on this.
I have one more question for you, Anders,
Yes.
before we go into feedback.
Mhm.
Just allow me 1 minute. I'm reading through multiple screens, right?
Yeah.
There is somebody who has raised, oh, that's me who raised the hand. Okay.
Mhm.
Which is the most essential commercial report everyone needs to succeed in their job? I'm not so sure if the question is clear, but I guess
Yeah.
what's the most important commercial report?
Yeah, that's there are probably several, but I would say that the both two parts, the pace and the pickup. So you need to understand, where are you now, in on the books, for example, and what is the composition of on the books? And one part that a lot of hoteliers miss is that the difference, the variance can be related to volume. Then you sold more rooms, basically, or sold more products. Then you have a mix component. So if you shifted the mix from lower room types to higher room types, then you will have a higher revenue. And then you have a price component. So did you actually raise your price? In a lot of well, all hotels basically put together the mix and the price, and then you can say that, okay, wow, my average rate increased by 10%, but that's totally wrong because you sold more higher room types than lower compared to last year. So you sold them to exactly the same price, but the mix shifted. So you have to look at the mix as well. And then you have to look at the pickup. So what is the pickup? Are you is that still strong, and preferably you should also look at pickup at different channels, different segments, different feeder markets, and so on. Complicated question, but and a long answer.
No. I think it's a valid point. With that said, I say, Anders Johansson, thank you as always for your support. Do contact Anders. I told you at the start that Anders is part of the HSMAI family, and he's always there to support us. And when I say us, I don't only mean this region. Anders actually supports HSMAI across all 4 regions. Have you been to Brazil or not yet?
Not Brazil yet. No, that's
Well,
still
I'm sure it's in the making. So
yeah.
Anders is really part of the family. So if you have any one-to-one questions that you would like to ask him, feel free to reach him directly. For those that would like to give us some feedback, we would love to hear your feedback, not only for the webinars, because next week would be our last webinar in this webinar series. I think it's time for us to go to action mode, now that the barometer, the positivity barometer, is going upward. So there's a lot that needs to be done. We definitely hope we have supported our community over the past 3 months. Very interesting 3 months. We can all write stories about them. But please, we would love to hear your feedback, because your feedback would help us curate and organize and plan future events, and as well start building the agenda for our annual commercial strategy conference in November. Remember, in MEA, every single year must be bigger and better every single year. So we promise that 2026 is not going to be anything less than 2025. It can only get better, but not the same. That's a Mia motto, and I'm sure you all agree with that. So please share your feedback. It would be greatly appreciated.